One of the most common things people want to do with EasyMorph is to extract data from a database. Once in EasyMorph, the data can then be manipulated and transformed as required. There are several steps required to connect EasyMorph to a database and extract data. The first is to create a connector which tells EasyMorph what type of database it is, where to find it, and any credentials needed to access it. Connectors can be held in a repository file or on an EasyMorph server and are managed using the Connector Manager. To access the Connector Manager, go to the Start tab and click on Add Edit Connectors in the top left. Alternatively, pressing the F7 key on your keyboard will also take you straight there. The Connector Manager allows us to do quite a few things. The first is to create, open, and manage repository files. I can also set a password on a repository file, which prevents it from being edited by someone else should it be located on a network drive that's accessible to others. Because I have EasyMorph Desktop connected to a space on an EasyMorph server, I can also view and manage connectors stored in that space. Whichever repository you are using, you can see all of the existing connectors stored in it and can add new connectors, remove connectors, reconfigure a connector, copy a connector and paste it to a different repository. If we have a lot of connectors, we can also filter the list by the connector type, or we can search the list. I'm going to create a new connector, and as you can see, as well as databases, EasyMorph allows me to create connectors to a large number of other third-party systems which it supports. To connect to a database, I'll select the SQL option, and I can then choose what type of database I want to connect to. EasyMorph natively supports all of the most common database types. These databases are fully supported by EasyMorph and don't require you to install any other software to allow EasyMorph to connect to them. If your database isn't on this list, don't worry. It is almost certainly still possible to connect EasyMorph to it using the ODBC option. For more information on creating ODBC connections, please visit the tutorial and help sections of the EasyMorph website. My database is a SQLite database, so let's pick that option. And we can see that I need to provide the information required to connect to the database. What information is required will be dependent on what type of database I'm trying to connect to, and can include things such as the server address, the port number, the database name, and access credentials. Your database administrator should be able to provide the necessary information for your database. For a SQLite database, I need to only configure a name for the connector. I'll call it My Product Database. And I must configure the path to the database file. So let's pick My Products database file. There are other advanced options available, which again vary depending on the database type. I don't need to worry about them in this instance. I can just click on Test to make sure I have configured the connection correctly. And my connection is successful, so I can click on OK to save my connector. The next step in extracting data from a database is to query it for the data I want. I do this using the EasyMorph Query Editor. To get to the query editor, from the Connection Manager, I can select my newly created connector and click on the Query button. Alternatively, from within my project, I can click on Add Data, select Query Database. If I've used my connector recently, it will appear in the list. I've only just created my connector, so I want to click on Other Connectors, and I'm in the Query Editor. Like the Connector Manager, there is a shortcut. Pressing the F8 key on my keyboard will take me straight to the Query Editor. Once in the Query Editor, I can select which table I wish to extract data from. If the database has more than one schema, I can select the correct one, and I can see a list of tables in my database. My database is only small, but if there were a lot of tables, I could search for the table I want to. I'll select my sales table, and EasyMorph shows me both a list of all the fields on the left-hand side, including an indicator of the data type. By default, it will also select all of the fields for me, but I can change which fields I want by checking or unchecking the boxes next to them. At the bottom of the screen, EasyMorph shows me a preview of the first 100 records in the table. If I don't want to do anything else to the data, I can simply click on Import to EasyMorph, and the data will be loaded into my workflow, ready for me to add more actions to transform the data or to use it however I need. Rather than loading all of the data from the database, I actually might want to apply filters to that data or to change it. I can do this by clicking on my action, editing the query using the button on the left-hand side, take me back to the query editor. From here, I can then do things like apply a sort to a column. I'll sort this by ascending order date. I could also move a column if I want to, by clicking again on the top right-hand corner in the column name and selecting Move. Doing this can be a little slow, so instead I can select the Move Columns button, move a column up or down with the arrows, or drag and drop it to where it needs to be. I'm only interested in cells in the United States, so let's apply a filter to our country region column. This time I'll select Filter. I can see that there are options to pick from a list of possible values, to enter a value manually, or even to use a parameter from my project. I want to pick the United States and click OK. And you can see that my filter has been added to our filter list. I can select what condition to apply. I also have the ability to change what values I've selected if I needed Canada instead. I'm also only interested in priority orders, so let's pick our shipping mode. I'm going to apply another filter to that. And this time, I only want first class and same day delivery. We can see that, as well as my filter, EasyMorph has also added a group to combine our filters into a logical AND. Or I could change it to a logical OR by right-clicking on the group and selecting the option to change to OR. If I wanted shipments that were not priority, I can right-click on my filter, select Negate, and I will add a logical NOT to my filter instead. And I'm not limited to a single group. Let's add another condition. This time I'll use the Add a Condition button. I'll add a filter to my sales value. I want this to be applied as a logical OR. My filter has been added, and we can see that the additional OR group has been included for me. I want my cells that are greater than or equal to $10. And it's as easy as that. Hopefully you can see that using these filters and groups, we can build up complex queries in EasyMorph to be applied to the database. I can also move my filters within the groups if I need to by simply dragging and dropping them. Although I've created my query without having to write any code myself, behind the scenes EasyMorph has written the SQL script for me. We can click on the View SQL button at the top to see the query that has been passed to the database. Clicking on OK and applying the change to my action means the data has been filtered and loaded into EasyMorph. To find out more about loading data from databases, head over to the EasyMorph website or to the EasyMorph community to ask a question.